Welcome to the Victory Frame Coach podcast. I am your host, Erasmo Soto. This is the first episode of this podcast, hopefully one of many. Today's episode is just going to consist of what exactly is the Victory Frame, what do I do, why I came about to start a podcast, especially a video podcast, and what's my story. And hopefully it resonates with you guys. Hopefully it adds some value to you guys. And in this podcast, I'll definitely get vulnerable with you guys, but I hope that this helps you guys get vulnerable with yourself, with me in the future, with other people, and really add value to other people's lives. But this is the only reason why I started this podcast, actually to add value, to pretty much resonate with those that I feel were at my state years ago and didn't have a way out. But you guys are searching for information online, whether it be podcasts, whether it be Reddit, blogs, Instagram videos, or books. And this is just my value to the world. Really much is just paying my rent from my room here on Earth, to be quite honest with you. So without further ado, I am a coach, fitness coach, life coach, and mentor. I probably couldn't have said that years ago because of what I was going through, but God has blessed me to bless other people as well. And also my previous mentor motivated me to create that ripple effect he had on me towards you guys. I also found them on a podcast, and hopefully somebody finds me and I can spark the mind of somebody else that's going through what they're going through. I'm 35 years old. I'm a dad of two boys, Zion and Ezra. One is 8 and one is currently just turned 6 months. So I'm very happy. I'm very excited to be raising these boys. These are like my rock, my soul. This is what keeps me going. One of my biggest reasons why, actually. I'm a New York City fireman here in New York, and been a firefighter for about 9-10 years now. I'm a fitness trainer for firefighters, and I do life coaching as well. Yes, I currently have a program, but it's not really finished right now. It's in the works. I did a little beta launch, which actually worked very well. Those clients, you guys know who you are. I'm sure you're listening to this podcast. I appreciate you guys, and I love the change that you guys did. So why did I decide to start a podcast? Back in 2015, I was going through a rough patch emotionally, mentally, spiritually, even physically. I was doing a lot of soul searching. At the time, I was dating somebody who, not to say that they weren't supportive, but I didn't know who I was. She was trying to figure herself out. And I leaned a lot towards other people for validation. I would say, quote unquote, childhood trauma, whatever you want to call it. We all have our reasons why we do things the way that we do, right? We always want to blame it on somebody else. I started noticing these patterns and these trends with myself, and I wasn't liking it. I was blaming other people for the things that were happening in my life. I started believing, actually, that things were happening to me and not for me, and I couldn't differentiate the two. I couldn't see the positivity in the obstacles along my way. And I became really depressed. Nobody knew that I was depressed. I had suicidal thoughts, to be quite honest with you. We had a rocky relationship with my previous relationship, and then things just got worse and worse. My first son was born. I'm thinking that was going to fix the situation. That didn't. That actually made it worse. And yeah, I was just at the bottom of the pit internally. I didn't know who I was. My identity was pretty much surrounded about being a dad, being a quote unquote good boyfriend, whatever that means. And yeah, I just started looking up online how I can become a better man, how to become more attractive. I was Googling stuff, crazy stuff. And I stumbled upon a few podcasts, and eventually I stumbled upon my good friend and mentor, previous mentor, Kevin Alud. Shout out to Kev, big brother of mine. He taught me a few things that made me realize that I'm actually in control, and everything that has happened to me is supposed to happen. And I want you guys to realize that uh, depression uh, is merely a tool. You can use it as a tool to become who you really want to become. It's information, right? You guys ever heard of the term "we live in the matrix," right? Pretty much this world, everything around us, our belief system, it's always connected, right? To all of our experiences and memories, thought patterns from our childhood into adulthood. And a lot of us are living lives that are not really authentic to ourselves. I know you guys know who you are, right? You guys are watching this right now, listening, and you're like, damn, I'm living that same life where I really don't know. I have no guidance. I have no sense of direction. deep down inside, I know something's up. Nothing is wrong with you, brother. Nothing is wrong with you. You're perfect just the way that you are. And until you realize that, it's just going to keep, you're going to keep going in circles and you're just going to keep pushing things down. I know in society, we have this negative connotation about men expressing themselves, going through things, and guys should be hard rock solid. Trust me, everybody goes through what they go through. And we're here to help each other out. And so that's one of the main reasons why I started this podcast, pretty much the way that I got over the hump of being depressed, of always living with anxiety, thinking it's normal, being frustrated all the time, things not going my way. I was always placing blame on somebody else for the things that were happening to me. I wasn't living my authentic self. I was being shy. Even when I broke up in my relationship, I was shy, trying to go back into the dating scene. I had a fear of rejection and so on and so forth, right? Physically, I wasn't there. I didn't have any motivation to work out. I was always an athlete growing up. I always played basketball and baseball all my life, even in college. And yeah, when I became a firefighter in 2015, I went through some hardships. The firehouse became my identity, and that was a whole nother twist and turn. Nobody knew what I was dealing with, even in the firehouse. 2016 was the year of really just taking a leap forward and having some faith within myself. I got out of that toxic relationship and I just started focusing on myself, started doing some inner work. I took a solo trip and I decided that from that year forward, I'm going to be my authentic self. And the friends that I had at the time, I was afraid of losing them, but if I lost them, I said, you know what? They weren't really my friends in the first place. So as I go along, now I'm getting confidence within myself. I'm single. I'm going out. I am putting myself out there. I'm trying to become this little alpha male or whatever the case may be. Believe me, that is just superficial. All this stuff about, oh yeah, I'm an alpha male or beta male. First off, whoever says they're an alpha male, they're not. Alpha males don't really need to boast about being alpha first and foremost. There's no such thing, to me, in my opinion, as an alpha male versus beta male. Alpha and beta is a mindset. And a lot of times us men were interchanging. The beta mindset is really trying to keep us safe. It's always trying to tell us, don't take risks, or don't do this, or don't do that. Negative self-talk. That's all beta. The alpha definitely goes through those same thoughts, but he acts despite of those talks. And in this podcast, I would like to share a lot of the teachings that I learned from other people, from other mentors, from books that I've read, from life experiences, obviously. And hopefully this helps you guys get out of that hurdle, get out of that hole that you guys been on. If you're watching this podcast, if you're listening to this podcast, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My Instagram is Victory Frame, and tell me whatever it is that you're dealing with, and I'll be happy to help you out in that regard. But for the most part, I think this podcast will be a lot of fun, a lot of eye-opening thoughts that you guys haven't heard of before. But yeah, let's get to it. Most of this victory frame, quote unquote, the reason why I call it victory frame is because in this life, there's no failures, there's only lessons. So even when you do take that risk and you quote unquote fail, which I don't believe in failures, but you quote unquote fail, you got to look at it as an information that's brought to you. Okay, I tried this didn't work. Let me try this another way. Most of the time, especially for men that are dealing with depressions or are in a hole about something, they tend to look at failures like they're not good enough. Okay, this failed. I'm not going to try anymore. And here I am starting this podcast out of the thousands of podcasters that are out there, probably similar to me, starting new. Why? Because to me, this is the value that I'm willing to put out. That ripple effect that my mentors put on me. Whereas now I want to expel it to everybody. It's pretty much God using me. And I'm not sure if you guys are spiritual or religious, but I look at it as like that higher source, whatever you want to call him, God or higher source or energy. It's using me as a vessel to put it out. And my hope is that one day somebody that's watching this podcast will do the same. Whether it be a young teenager right now that's watching this that needs the help, or whether it be an older man, it doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, we're here to help each other out, right? We're here to make ourselves better every single day, especially with the status of the world, with the status of our country. I would like to be a man of value. I would like to put it out. And I don't want to be selfish and hold all those things that I've learned and not put it out there for you guys to learn and for you guys to actually teach your sons and your daughters about what it is to be a good human. Now, to go in a little deeper as to who I am as a person and why I do what I do. When I was a little kid, I always was into sports. I was very competitive. I have three brothers and one sister, so it's five of us. I'm the middle child. But anyway, I was always looking for that validation from my parents, whether it be from sports, whether it be from emotional support. And I honestly grew up and I felt like I didn't get it. And so growing up, as a teenager, growing up as a high schooler, and even in college, man, I was seeking validation from friends, from girls, from other people all the time, from coaches. And when I didn't get it, I saw how I was feeling. And that became a norm to me. And it wasn't up until I went through the deepest, darkest time of my life that I decided to turn that around. And for me, I was about 26. Yeah, about 26 years old. I want to be able to help that 13, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old like I was and prevent them from going into their deep 20s thinking that they need to be validated by other people. They need to be validated by their parents all the time. As men, we need to focus on inner growth, focus on emotional intelligence, focus on cognitive mastery, owning up to your emotions, choosing the emotions that you want, doing the actions that you want, and so on and so forth. All right. The whole basis of this podcast is based off a sentiment, based on a fact, actually. I'm going to say the fact. It's called the universal truth. And I'm going to go on a deeper dive with this on another podcast. But the universal truth, by definition, to be concise, it consists of a circumstance that happens in your life will trigger a thought that happens in your brain. And that thought will create an emotion. That emotion is going to drive an action, is going to motivate you to act. That action is going to give you a certain result in your life. And that result in your life is going to be used to reaffirm that original thought that you had about that circumstance in the first place. So confirmation bias, pretty much. So again, a circumstance that is very neutral, right? You have no control over a circumstance. It could be other people's opinion, the weather, anything outside of your control happens in your life. That's going to trigger a thought immediately, right? A lot of us say that we can't choose our thoughts, but we actually can. Every time a thought comes in our brain, we choose to think it. But there's a trigger because it's deep in your subconscious mind, your thought patterns. So a circumstance happens to you, then it triggers a thought. That thought is going to create an emotion, right? Whether you're going to feel mad or sad or happy or whatever the case may be. And that emotion is going to drive an action eventually. That action is going to create a result in your life. And that result is going to reaffirm that original thought you had about your circumstance. In this podcast, we're going to help you to think differently. Master your mind, master your emotions, learn how to choose your thoughts, learn how to choose your emotions. And understand the world in a different arena, right? Because we look at the world and, like I said before, we look at the world and we are pretty much affirming what we already believe. And we have to rewire that. And the only way we rewire that is by practicing choosing different thoughts. And I know it sounds crazy. Like at first you have to lie to yourself in a way. But what is the truth, right? What is the truth in life? What is the right? What is the wrong? What is right for somebody is wrong for somebody else, right? So this podcast is pretty much to choose your thoughts, to learn how to choose your thoughts and your emotions, to help you become the best version of yourself, to help you give you the results that you want in your life, right? And this is the primary way of getting out of that depression that you're going through, getting out of that anxiety that you're going through. I've been to therapy, behavioral therapy. I've been to cognitive therapy. I've been to all these things, and all of them, they're great. Don't get me wrong. But to me, I looked at it like a bandage on a hemorrhage. When you're going through some dark times, you need a different thought process. You need to rewire your brain. And why not look for somebody that actually has done the work and that could teach you how to do those things? And just by watching this podcast, you can definitely get a lot of gems on how you can do that on a daily basis. We're going to go on the deeper dive on each pillar, the circumstance, the thoughts, the emotions, how to choose them, the actions, the results. The alpha male, they know this universal truth. They know that everything around them is information and they're going to use everything to their advantage. All the bad that happens according to society, bad. What is bad? Bad is relative to everybody's experience. So the alpha male, he pretty much looks for all the information around him and he's going to use whatever he can to his advantage. Not only to also help himself, but protect others without hurting other people. Whereas the beta male, he blamed his circumstances to anyone and everything. Oh, this is happening to me. Why is this happening to me? Oh, I'm sad because of this person. Or I'm mad because of that person. This is the regular occurrence of the beta mindset. And it's okay to think that way. I don't want you to think, oh, Coach Soto is saying this, so therefore I'm wrong for thinking that way. No, brother, you are in the right place. It's okay to think that way, but you first have to become self-aware about that thought process. And after you become self-aware, now you have that information to be like, I have to do something different. And this is what this podcast is about. It's about helping you learn how to think, how to choose your thoughts, how to choose your emotions, so that the people around you can see a different you and you can add value to yourself, to others. You can get your dream job, you can get your dream salary. This way, you can get your dream girlfriend, your dream wife, right? That dream life that you always dreamed of, yes, is definitely accessible, but you have to think differently. And my hope is that this podcast rewires your brain in that sense. That's all I got for today. You can reach me at Victory Frame on Instagram anytime. I'm willing to answer any questions. And I hope that this podcast really helps you guys out there, really changes lives. And whatever you learn from this podcast, please spread it. Spread the knowledge that you're about to receive in this podcast. And I hope we have a lot of fun. Today was a story about how the Victory Frame came about. And just to give you a concise synopsis of what's going to happen, right? What are you going to learn in this podcast? Any suggestions you guys have where you feel like you need help and you need me to talk about it, feel free to shoot me a DM. Otherwise, thank you. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys and peace. Live in your victory.